What's happening, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Phigtin, where it's Saturday morning, January 17th. Anthony already went out. I got my coffee this morning. I go out every day just to get out of the house and let the air hit my face. Cold out there this morning. It's not a baseball Saturday. That's for sure. But there is plenty to talk about. There is plenty to talk about, and a lot of it has happened in the last 24 hours. And so for the first time in 5 weeks, we're back as we start to unpack the Phillies offseason and some of maybe the frustrations that our listeners are having about this Phillies offseason. I guess let's just kind of go through the timeline here.
Sure.
And unpack everything.
Yeah.
So, about 2 weeks ago, you hear that the Phillies are favored to sign Bo Bichette. And that Ken Rosenthal would be surprised if it wasn't the Phillies, and John Heyman would be surprised if the Phillies didn't end up with Bo Bashette. And they had a great Zoom meeting, and momentum was building, and all of those things. And we heard so much about it. You could not hear any more about Bo Bashette and the Phillies, because I think Bo Bichette's agents and representatives wanted that to be out there, and it's very clear they wanted that to be out there. And then, lo and behold, the Mets swoop in and they end up signing Bo Bashette. We find out that they too had a meeting with him, but nobody knew about that one. We only knew about the Phillies meeting, and they end up doing the 3-year deal with the opt-outs that the Phillies don't want to do. And they end up with Bo Bashette, and the Phillies end up holding their jocks. And then they turn around and 90 minutes later, re-sign JT Realmuto to a 3-year deal worth $45 million that can be worth as much as $60 million. And even that, which is something I think they should have done, kind of elicited a groan from me. Seriously, just an all-time bad optics day for the Phillies. But I want to make a little bit of sense of it, and we're going to bring you in for the rational thought here.
Yeah, and I will try to provide rational thought. And the reality is, though, Bob, there is a takeaway that I have that is probably in agreement with a lot of the fans at this point. And I'll start there before I get into the rational thought of it. And the takeaway that I have is if the two teams that spend more money than the Phillies, which are the Dodgers and the Mets, are willing to do this modernized style of contracting, which is to include opt-out clauses but give them more money up front, then the Phillies need to be willing to do that as well. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to lose out to those two teams on players. Now, that to me is that's the criticism and I think it's a fair criticism, and everybody should be on board with that criticism, because I think the Phillies kind of had Preston Mattingly came out, what was it, like a week ago or so, or a week and a half ago, when he said we don't do opt-out clauses. Now, he may have been referring to a question about a relief pitcher, and maybe the way he phrased it was a little bit more generic, and we interpreted it as we would never do it for anybody. I got to think that if the situation was right, that the Phillies would not balk at bringing in the right guy to help them win a championship just because he wanted some sort of opt-out at some point. So that, to me, that's the first thing. And I want to bring that out first, Bob. And we could talk about that. And then I'll get into the rationale of why they don't sign Bo Bashette or match the offer that the Mets gave. But I want to kind of talk to you about that first, because that seems to be kind of where things had been trending the last couple of years. And the Phillies got burned by it for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, their advantage has always been we're willing to go longer. We're willing to tie up more cash. I mean, you see 7 years, $200 million. It's not a weak offer, but it is the opt-out mechanic that was the difference here. And it's probably going to be the difference for a lot of these players. And this is a little bit of a special circumstance too, because one of the things that, as I sort of grapple with what has happened here and where I kind of think they're at, and should you be mad at them, the uncertainty of the sport as a whole is just looming out there in the distance. Right now, you put a gun to my head, do I think that they're playing baseball in 2027? Not on time, and maybe not at all.
Right.
I think when you consider the labor uncertainty and just how murky this whole picture is, I'm like, well, do I kill them for not trying to tie themselves down to this player? Do I kind of say, you know what, maybe it's a blessing in disguise? So there's that part of it too that I want to get to. But like, let's start here, and then we'll tackle what you talked about. It's amazing. You open up a sports betting app right now, and you look at odds to win the 2026 World Series, and you look at where the Phillies are, and they have the fourth best odds to win the whole thing next year. And I think that that's about fair. You know, obviously markets are dictated on who people want to bet on and like where the money goes. I get all that. But like the Phillies, I think most people would say have, of the entire sport, one of the 5 best teams right now. Now.
Yeah.
They have, I believe their over-under set at 91.5 wins. I think they'll probably win 93 games. And like, we're sitting here and we're just like, and the Phillies have kind of built themselves into a little bit of a difficult spot because it's hard to win 93 games. It's hard to be one of the 5 best teams in the sport. It's hard to be consistently good and give yourself an opportunity to win year after year after year. But I also can't sit here and say that people that are frustrated with this team and they're angry at Dave Dombrowski and they're pissed at these players and they're tired of the product, like, I can't say that they're wrong for feeling that way, because I too, even looking at it rationally, sort of feel that way myself. I guess, you know, what I then pivot to is this really the player that was going to push them over the top? And I have to tell you, like, people have been texting me the last few weeks and they're like, what do you think about Bo Bichette? And I'm not saying this to cover for the Phillies, because again, like, I think that it was sort of embarrassing. I think that they got played. Like, I think that those things are true, but I'm like, I don't know. He's okay. Like, he's an okay defensive player. You're probably going to play him at second or third, and he's not a shortstop. If you play him at second, he's probably passable. I'm not even sure if he's a good, an okay defensive third baseman. He's obviously hit, over 300 last year, but he's not really a power bat per se. Like, could he hit 20, 24 home runs? Yeah, but like, I don't know that you put that in stone. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know that he's like the needle mover that everyone that hoped he was. And for me, the reason that I was like kind of excited about it, I said, because it changes the makeup of the team. It's now going to remove a player or two, and it's going to be a fresh face and a different energy and a different complexion. And that was, to me, the enticing thing about this, not so much the player specifically. And that's not to say he's not a good player, but I don't know that he's a special player, and we're going to find out.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm with you on this, right? Like, I was intrigued by what the team would look like with Bo Bichette, because it would be a different team. Doesn't necessarily mean it would be better. It would just be different, right? Because
what are you ultimately talking about, right? Like, let's say, do you think if they did the Bichette deal, they would have gotten to a place with Realmuto where they would have made it work? Or do you feel that this was sort of like, well, that domino fell, now we really have to go? I mean, the way it played out, it would tell you that that's how it was.
Well, I think that there would have been a different conversation with JT if they signed Bichette. I'm not saying that it was an automatic no for JT, but I think that it was, if we sign Bo Bichette, we're not giving you 3 years, right? And then JT's got to make a decision. Do I want to finish out my career for less than I think I'm worth with a team that has a chance to win a championship, or do I go get a little bit more money and play for a mediocre to,
So what I would tell you is, like, if you look at the division odds, like, the Mets have obviously jumped up a little bit now. I still think the Phillies are better than the Mets. I don't know if I'm wearing my red and blue glasses
Don't jump too far down the path, because that's my one last thing today.
Okay.
That I want to talk about.
When I look at how this changes the future fortunes of the Phillies, I don't think that Bichette and subtracting potentially Realmuto and getting rid of either, I assume it's Bohm, but like, let's just say Bohm or Stott for the sake of argument.
Right.
I don't think it makes them much better from a betting perspective. Like, I don't think that the Phillies' odds would have been significantly different to win a World Series or win a division or anything like that. It's just
who are the 3 teams ahead of them? I guess I know it's the Dodgers, obviously.
Yeah.
Toronto and the Yankees.
Yeah. Let me just bring it up real quick. I believe. why even speculate? Let's just please hold.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised that, to be honest with you, that they would be fourth. Like I thought.
Actually, it has shifted around a little bit this morning. So it's the Dodgers plus 250, the Yankees plus 850, which I don't know that I buy that. Mariners plus 1,300, and then the Phillies are also plus 1,300.
So they're tied for third.
For third. So I'm saying,
and I think that Yankees money. I think that Yankees money is always, they're like the Dallas Cowboys, right? Their money is always going to be.
Well, money's always going to be tied up in the Yankees. And also there's this idea that if they're in it and they'll go lay the hammer at the deadline and they have the resources to do it. And, there's some reality in that. But anyway, I don't want to turn it into a betting podcast. But the point being is that they're still kind of where they would have otherwise been. Like they weren't jumping those other teams with Bo Bichette. And they probably wouldn't have, they didn't fall because they didn't get them. So now, all that said, there's one other part, and there's just so many different layers of this to sort of unpack. So we're kind of going through it sequentially right now. But the next part of it is that you look at the free agent classes the next few years, they're not very good. And there's not a lot of difference-making bats. And so if you are sort of working from the position that, well, this was the last or the best option moving forward, you should have done it. I can go for that, except that he's probably going to be back on the market in our next free agency period anyway, because if he has a decent season, he's going to opt out.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about. Because I wanted to kind of break down this contract and why, because one of the things I heard yesterday from, whether it was on social media from fans or listening to talk, I was in the car a lot yesterday, so I had talk radio on and was listening to fans complain and the hosts complain. But when you look at the contract, first of all, Bo Bichette's agent, I think this was a stroke of genius.
Yeah, he had a nice day.
Yeah, by him, right? In this sense. So if you take what the Phillies offer was, let's look, it was 7 years, $200 million, which I think is a fair offer for what Bo Bichette is, right? Would you agree that $26 million a year is about the kind of player that he is, right? All right. So that's fair. All right. So what he would have gotten $26 million. Instead, he gets $42 million a year from the Mets, right? Well, why do the Mets value him at 42 and the Phillies value him at 26? The opt-out is the difference, right? And we talked about that. He can get out early, so the Mets may not, and they may end up only paying him 47, because I think the opt-out pays him 5, if I'm not mistaken. It's either 4 or 5, I forget. But why split hairs? So if you're Bo Bichette and his agent, you look at it and go, we could collect $46 million for 1 year from the Mets. If we have a good year, right, he opts out, and then does he get the equivalent of what he would have gotten from the Phillies, if not more, in free agency?
If he exceeds, given what I just said, which is that these free agent classes are not spectacular, at least at the moment, as we talk right now, he's going to exceed it if he has a good to even maybe slightly above average year. He's going to get it.
Right. So he gets a lot more now and then gets the same. He could then sign with the Phillies for the same contract a year from now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in all honesty, could really sign that same contract a year later. And, oh, by the way, he pocketed $46 million in the process beforehand. So it was smart by the agent. All right. Now let's look at it in this way too. Both the Phillies and the Mets are well above the luxury tax, right? So there's a penalty, and I don't want this to be everybody to yell at me to sit there and say, "Oh, come on, oh, that's ridiculous." But there is a reality to this, that Bo Bashette is going to cost the Mets $95 million in 2026 if he opts out. If he doesn't opt out, it's $5 million less. But still, the penalty of 110%. Once you're above that second luxury tax threshold, now you sit there and go, are you paying $95 million for 1 year of Bo Bichette? Let's imagine that for a second. Like, let's imagine that was the contract that was here. What kind of scrutiny is that guy under when the Phillies are committing $95 million to him?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a crazy, like, that's why Steve Cohen has the money to do it and just like burn it. But when you look at it and you look at the Mets, and again, I'm going to save it for one last thing. If you're the Phillies, do you sit there and say, we'll just wait? It's all right. Yeah, if we like him, we think he would be a great fit here. We're willing to wait a year. Yeah. We're not paying $46 million plus a bonus plus the tax to get that up to $95 million for him to come in for one season and then go somewhere else. We'll wait.
And your money frees up a little bit after this season. Well, again, though, there's so much uncertainty of what it's even going to look like from an economic standpoint. But just as is in this moment, if you were to say that wasn't a factor, you would see the money coming off the books. But all that said, the issue here, because that's all fine and well, and you're right, and I agree with you. But the problem is, for most people that are listening to this, they're saying this team broke my heart the last 3 or 4 years. And by the way, it's not as good as it was last year. It's still a really good team, but this is a lesser version of last year's team as it stands in this moment. And how can you talk about World Series, it means everything, and then operationally work like this where you don't make drastic changes? And it's not blow it up, it's not tear it down. But how do you say well, we signed Adolis Garcia or Adolis Garcia, however the hell you say his name, and we're going to get rid of Nick Castellanos, which, oh, by the way, we still haven't done yet. And latest reports say that you might have to eat $18 million of the 20 to do this, which is just incredible. And you took your postseason playoff slow heartbeat hero and you removed him from the mix because he's in Boston now, which, again, I don't necessarily even blame them for that. But the reality of it is that they are weaker unless you're really, really excited about the 8th-9th combo in the back of the bullpen.
Yeah. And I want to talk about Ranger. We didn't really get into that yet because that was part of the wild week that was or wasn't for the Phillies. But yeah, I mean, the Phillies are kind of in a little bit of a transitional spot, right? So I look at it and say, I'm in agreement. This is a step back, not a huge step back, like you said. They're probably going to be over that win total, right? Still, they're still the favorite to win the NL East in my mind, and they're going to be a playoff team. But as constructed right now, do I look at it and see it much different than a year ago? I don't. You're not as good as the Dodgers, and you didn't do anything to get better. Meanwhile, the Dodgers add Kyle Tucker.
But has the ship sailed on catching this iteration of the Dodgers? You bring in Bo Bashette. You're not catching the Dodgers bringing in Bo Bashette.
No, but and again, Bob, you and I talked about this ad nauseum last season. This was a team. This was the only team in my mind. And now, kudos to Toronto for playing a hell of a World Series. But the Phillies were the only team in my mind who could beat the Dodgers. I didn't think there was another team in baseball who could beat the Dodgers. Right. I still view it because of the way that the Phillies pitching lines up that they could still be that one team that could beat the Dodgers.
I'm with you, but now there's a little bit more uncertainty about how that pitching lines up because I need to see Zach Wheeler come back. I know that all indications right now are that, maybe late April or early May, and they're confident that he's going to be where he was. And here comes Andrew Painter, and he's going to be fine. Another year removed from Tommy John. And we know what Chris Sanchez is at this point. I get it, but it's not as deep. If something goes wrong with Zach Wheeler, it does not look good. And as it would for most teams that lose their one or two guy in a rotation, but I don't know at this point with certainty that Andrew Painter is going to give you the season that you hope for. I don't know that he's Justin Verlander right now. That's what we were talking about 20 months ago with him. So there's some pause. And then there's a lot of other ifs. If I'm in the Phillies position right now, I go here you go. Here's how I feel good about this. One, we had some guys underachieve last year, and we had some really bad players in our lineup, and we still won all of these games. So if Bryce Harper looks more elite this season, and if Bryson Stott puts together a full season of the player that he was the final 2 months, and if Trey Turner continues to be what we saw for the bulk of last season, and if Crawford comes up and plays well, and if Aiden Miller shows up at some point and he's a thing, you can do it. You can work yourself into being hey, this team isn't entirely the same as last year, and it can get better in a lot of places. But you do have to that requires some optimism and some hope and some wishing.
Sure. Sure, it does. And this is not a city that is known for that.
No, and we're not in the mood to do that right now after watching them throw that series away against the Dodgers. And then if you happen to be a real 4-for-4 guy, unlike yourself, you're really cranky after what you saw last Sunday against the 49ers. Right. So I don't think anybody's in the mood for like, oh, we just lost out on our primary free agent target to our arch nemesis. And yeah, they actually ended up having to pay an additional $40 million for it. So haha them. You know, in this moment, like I think in May, we might not hate this as much. I don't know, but I think we might not hate this as much. But today, like you're allowed to be like, dude, what the
sure. 100%. I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on this. You know, it's interesting. I want to give one of our colleagues credit on this.
Russ Joy?
No, that Russ Joy. Russ Joy is prancing about Europe having a
Barcelona right now. I believe.
Yeah, Barcelona. Wait till he gets the text that we did an episode and he has to upload it from Barcelona. No, it was Ty Dalbert, right, from Phillies Nation. Yeah. So once Kyle Tucker signs his contract, he sent a group text to a group of Phillies writers. He sent a text that said, Kyle Tucker, 841 OPS gets you 60 million. 844 OPS gets you called washed up by Dave Dombrowski.
Yeah.
Right.
No longer elite. I mean, now let me just get to this next part because I think a lot of people are probably sitting here this morning saying, well, now what? You know, is this what they're going with? Is it going to be the run it back crew? Because you do turn around and you sign JT Realmuto. And I know that there were some people that it's interesting to me. Like, they're still competitive. They're still trying to win. Are they all in? Are they lighting $50 million in luxury tax money on fire? Like, no, but you're still trying to win. There was almost this like, when the Realmuto news broke yesterday, like that was supposed to be a positive development. We were supposed to feel good about that.
And fans
happens, and everyone's like, oh my God.
Yeah, fans are not feeling good about it.
And people that I talk to as well, like people that are fans that are like a little goofy, like myself, but that are like fairly educated. And they're like, you got to be kidding me with this. Like, again, it just looks so –
It's the optics.
Bad. It looked bad, man.
It's the optics of it, right? Because in reality, when you step back from it, what were your options at catcher?
You want to do Marshawn and Stubby?
Yeah, like what were your options? You just got the same guy for less money. Yeah. And then you've been paying him like $7 million a year less. And yes, he has incentives to get to the 60 million number he wanted, but he's got to hit those incentives. And if he does hit those incentives, that's a good thing for the Phillies.
Yeah.
Right.
And the dollars matter. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, 3 years from now, you know, do you really want to pay JT Realmuto $15 million? But I'd also say, like, you're paying Taijuan Walker $18 million right now. So if JT Realmuto's that washed, where he becomes a 220 guy with 7 home runs, and you have to pay him $15 million in 2028. Okay.
Yeah. Like, he's your backup.
Is it really the end of the world? Seriously.
He's probably your backup catcher in 2028. Right. I mean, so that's the thing. I wanted to get into the Ranger Suarez contract because I don't know about you, Bob, but I was actually floored by the money.
In terms of what he got, like too much?
I think Boston gave him a lot. And they're paying, so he's getting $26 million a year. Okay.
I think there's a lot of people that are frustrated that Bregman's not there right now. And that
sure.
That was the move.
That was the move, but he's getting $26 million a year. He made 26 starts for the Phillies last year. That's $1 million a start.
Yeah.
He's never thrown more than last year was his most innings he's ever thrown. It was 157. Like, I am flabbergasted. And he's not even like their top guy. He's probably going to slot in. He's probably their number 2, but he's going to pitch out of the number 3 spot. They'll split up the lefties, right? So you're going to go Garrett Crochet is their ace, and they'll probably put Sonny Gray between the two of them so that they can split the lefties. So he's going to pitch out of the number 3 spot for the Red Sox. That's a lot of money to bank on a guy who's great in the playoffs, right? Like, that's what they're paying for. That 1.48 playoff ERA in 8 starts, whatever, 11 appearances. Like, that's what you're paying for, and I get it, and I love it. You know, I love what he brings to the table, but it's a big risk. It's a big risk because of his injury history. whatever, how he, I don't know. If you tell me any guy, I don't care who the pitcher is, decent numbers, I got to pay $26 million and I'm not going to get 180 innings out of the guy. Like I'm passing. I'm not paying it. And I understand why the Phillies wouldn't do that too. Right.
Yeah. I mean, going back to 21, 106, 155, 125, 150. And then, like you said, last year, 157. He'll be 31 in August. What scares me the most is that we watched him the last couple of years just hit these walls. And you saw like you're looking at starts where he's hitting 88 on the gun, and you're like,
the velocity, man, like it's way down.
Scary, 94, okay, 93, okay, fine. But I don't fault the Phillies, and this is not a unique take. I heard this week, and I agree with the sentiment. I don't fault the Phillies for not bringing back Ranger Suarez. There's two things I have thought, though, here in recent times. Boy, I wish the Phillies did not re-sign Aaron Nola to that deal. Because I would rather have Ranger Suarez the next 5 years than Aaron Nola. I mean, you might disagree with that. I actually would rather have someone else entirely of the two, but I don't want to do another 5 years of Nola. I feel like that is a mistake, and I like Aaron Nola. He was on our show last year. I think he's a stand-up guy and desperately wants to return to form, and will do everything he can do and say all the nice things in the world about him. I'm not sure he can. So that feels like a little bit of a mistake in this moment. And, the other thing I would say about it is I would have liked to have seen them be a little bit more aggressive, and maybe they will here be a little bit more aggressive with Luzardo. Like, I just feel like if you're going to let these guys, if you're going to let Suarez walk, like, to me, like Luzardo, you talk about like postseason dude, like, well, that guy showed me everything you could possibly show against the Dodgers this year. Like, that's a guy that I know he had his problems this year. He's not like an ace. He had his moments where he was very inconsistent in his blowups. But, like, I hope he's part of a long-term plan here.
Yeah, and I think he will be. I got a little bit of insight into this. Bob was talking to somebody in the agency world. Let's just put it that. I don't want to give away too much. And when they signed him right before arbitration, gave him $11 million for this year. Phillies gave him more than even the agents were asking for. They feel that goes a long way. It shows that the Phillies value Luzardo, and that when you talk about extending him, which I think is, if you asked me today, make a prediction, I think will happen before the season. I don't think this one drags on like Schwarber and Nola did in the past and gets to the offseason. I think this one will be done.
If they want to do it and he likes it here, then it should get, I mean, I don't want to oversimplify, but I think that the intent is such that it should get done. And if I were Luzardo, I'd want it to get done before the season starts.
Yeah, and I think that the Phillies giving him an extra, I think it was like an extra $650,000 or $700,000 in arbitration, which may not sound like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but that they came to the table with that and it was above what the agency thought. They took that and said, okay, they like our guy. And that's some cachet for the Phillies when it comes to negotiating this extension. I think that they're happy enough that they will sign him.
He almost feels like the forgotten man in all of this offseason. Yeah. It's funny, like, how the team result impacts the way that the players viewed. Like, I don't want to make this a football show. Like, I like Jalen Hurts. I think that he's a fine quarterback. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback. Right. He's got his issues. He obviously played 2 fantastic games at the end of last season, and he gets propped up into this place where you're like, wow, you can't ignore what he did. He is him. Well, part of that is because Jalen Carter wrecked the game against the Rams in the divisional round. And had he not done that and the Rams won, we would have never seen that. And we'd be looking at Jalen Hurts in this moment like this is 4 straight years or 3 straight years where this game's inconsistent. They haven't won.
Yeah.
What are we doing? I mean, some people are doing that anyway. The reason why I say that is because if the Phillies find a way to get past the Dodgers, you're looking at what Jesús Luzardo did against them in that series and saying that that's an all-time performance for a Phillies a Phillies October moment. Like that's an all-time Phillies October guy, moment, series, performance. Just not only how good he was, but the balls it took to come back and do it again. Like, I mean, but it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. It gets lost in the sauce.
What he did in that series changed everything I thought about the guy. I'm being dead serious with that. Like,
yeah, we talked about it. Like, this guy's like, is he like mentally, like, can he dial it in? Does he need?
I was so convinced that this is a guy with great talent, obviously, really good pitcher, but that he lets the emotion of the game get the better of him.
Yeah, I remember when they were in, I want to say New York, and he had some calls work against him, and he just went nuts.
Flipped out on the umpire. Yep, it was in New York against them. I was there, right? Yeah. I was part of my 10-game losing streak with the Phillies on the road, right? So him being able to rein that in and be as good as he was against the Dodgers, that changed everything. That I said, okay, he's made for the moment. He's absolutely made for the moment, and he should be here long term. And I think, and it's funny. I think we've talked about this too before, Bob. Like, in my mind, going forward, if you're looking long term Phillies beyond 27, right? He's top 3 or 4 on as most important Phillies going forward.
Oh, I agree.
Right? I mean, just is. And like, that's why this contract will matter a lot, and I think he's going to get one before the end of spring training. That's for sure.
Can we play a little true or false real quick here?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, all right. At the end of last season, we see Ryan Kerkering just have an all-time bad moment. It was genuinely horrible. Just had no plan, froze, didn't execute. You know the deal. Like, let's not pile on, but it was bad. People like myself then raced to their phones and said, like, well, that has to be it for him here. He's not going anywhere. He is here.
Yeah.
Do you think, again, true or false, it is fair to say that he is under an immense amount of pressure this season? And do you think it was an overreaction to say, like, man, he might be better served going somewhere else?
I think there'll be some pressure from the fan base, but not from the organization. And I think that's the important thing. What the Phillies are going to really have to do a good job of doing is making sure that he avoids the outside noise, right? I do think it was an overreaction in the moment to say he can never pitch here again.
And I was like one of the people that kind of said it. And then time passed and I'm like, I don't know. But I'll be honest with you. Like, there's part of me, it's like, yes, he can pitch here again.
Yeah.
But, like, would he be better off elsewhere? Now, to his credit, he stood up and took it. He answered the questions. He was a man about it. Like, all those things. And I applaud him for that. Yeah. I also don't think that the fans are going to be particularly brutal against him. I think that the fans are frustrated with the Phillies in general. I think they're frustrated with this core. I think they're frustrated with the front office. Ryan Kerkering gets a ball in the 7th inning of the first series at Citizens Bank Park this spring. I don't think that they're going to boo him. I think they're probably going to it's a different fan base in a way. Like, as nuts as we are about the Eagles, like, the Eagles won a Super Bowl 11 months ago, and everyone's like, fire the coach. What does he do? This organization's screwed. Like, and everyone's crazy. And as Philly as ever when it comes to the Eagles, I feel like this is a different time, though, with, like, the rest of the sports. And I actually think that people are going to rally around him and try to support him.
Yeah, no. I agree with you up front. Like, I think that his first appearance, I would not be surprised if there's an ovation. Right, because that's what we've become known for now. The Philadelphia, they give their struggling.
Yeah, and like not in a fake or like inauthentic way. Like, I think people are going to be like, you know what, you stood up, you ate it, you're back, let's go.
That's right, exactly. But if he goes a couple games in a row where he struggles, that's where the pressure comes in, right? And that's what I'm talking about. But I also think that you're probably looking at a more reduced role for this guy, right? They brought in Brad Keller for a reason. Mm-hmm. So you now look at your back end is, Duran is your 9th inning. Your setup guys, lefty is Alvarado, righty is Keller. So Kerkering kind of falls into that middle relief kind of role. He's important, but not as important. He's the 4th guy in the bullpen, not the second or third, right?
Okay.
And I think that slight change makes it a little bit easier for him.
Yes, it does seem that he has struggled in those moments, in those big moments, to be consistently good, and you'd like to see his role be diminished a little bit. And so I like that. True or false? This is a fun one.
Yeah.
Someone with the Phillies thought that Matt Strahm was a total pain in the ass.
True, and not just one someone.
Okay.
Multiple someones.
Is that you can verify that?
Well, there was some. Here's the one public example I'll give you. You remember since we were talking about Kerkering, you remember, after it happened, Strahm saying we should have done more.
Yeah, the PFP
right?
gate,
right?
Yeah,
and then when Dombrowski was asked about it,
yeah,
he said, we did do PFPs during the week before the playoffs. Not everybody.
He didn't do them.
Yeah, he didn't do it. Right? Whatever exact quote was. And Dombrowski's 100% right. Like, I was there at that practice day and watched them do the PFPs. Like I could verify, eyewitness, they happened. If Matt Strahm didn't participate, he didn't participate. All right. So there is an obvious example of the strain between Strahm and the organization.
Yeah.
Not that it was like awful. Like you got to get the hell out of here. It's not that it was untenable, like the Castellanos Rob Thompson situation. It was one that it was like, yeah, it's enough.
I know they have three lefties, and like Banks had a good year, and Alvarado's here, and like that's all fine and well. But I'm like, it wasn't like an embarrassment of riches from the left side, and it wasn't like it was some wonderful return that they got for him. It was just thought that was indicative of kind of where they were at with him. And yes, he was on the decline, but like he wasn't bad last year either.
No, I think
bad this year.
But I also think that if you look what they've done, even with the guys that they've added that are fringy, like they traded for Chase Shugard, right? The other day, right? Like,
yeah, people forget that.
Yeah. They've gone more towards more velocity in the pen. Yeah. And Matt Strahm was not a velocity guy. And so the Phillies should see a significant upgrade in velocity. Doesn't mean it's going to be better. It might not be. It could be worse. But at the very least, the relief pitchers are going to throw harder.
Okay, so, I got a few more for you.
Go ahead.
Let's see here. Let's go down the list. Alec Bohm will be the Phillies starting third baseman on opening day.
If you asked me this 24 hours ago, I would have said no.
So now he's back.
Now he's probably back.
Bryson Stott will be the Phillies second baseman on opening day in 2027.
No.
This is it?
Well, I don't think this is it necessarily for him as a Philly. I don't think that he's their starting second baseman in 2027.
So really that question for me is more rooted in like, do we think we're going to see finally like Bryson Stott really put it all together and look like the guy we kind of thought he might be, or are we going to kind of get this like, well, he was good for 2 months and then he was dreadful and he's okay?
I have a feeling. Here's what I have a feeling. And again, this is me reading some tea leaves. I don't have any knowledge, but when I'm one of those people who truly believes that people like Dave Dombrowski don't say the things that they say publicly unintentionally. Mm-hmm. And when we were at the winter meetings, Todd Zalecki, we were sitting around a table talking to Dave, just, asking a bazillion questions. And Todd Zalecki at one point said, you don't envision asking Trey Turner to go to another position at any point in 2026, do you? And he says, no, I wouldn't think about doing that now. But it was the indication of down the line. Yeah. So Aiden Miller's coming.
Right.
And talk to, I don't know if you know, do you follow Aram Layton, Just Baseball?
Yeah.
Okay. So Aram Layton, who's prospect guy, big prospect guy in the majors. He talked to Tim Kelly and I over for On Pattison. And we were talking all about Phillies prospects. And he said he was of the camp initially that Aiden Miller was not a shortstop. He said in this past year, Aiden Miller grew so well that his grade at shortstop is up to 60. He's a 60 grade shortstop. If that's the case, Aiden Miller is going to be the Philly shortstop in 2027, and Trey Turner will probably slide to second base. Could I see Bryson Stott staying with the team at third base? Because I think that was part of a possibility to begin with if they signed Bo Bichette. Yes.
Yeah.
So is he the starting second baseman in 2027? No, in my mind, but I don't necessarily know that means he's not starting somewhere for the Phillies.
Let's talk a little Garcia real quick, because the Phillies, at some point since our last show, signed him. Over under 250 average with the Phillies in 2026.
Under.
Over under 17 home runs with the Phillies in 2026.
Over.
Okay.
Just because it's easier to hit home runs in Citizens Bank Park.
How many?
How many does he hit?
Yeah.
23.
Okay. And over under 72 runs batted in with the Phillies in 2026.
I'll say over, just because he's going to be behind guys who are going to get on base.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just read you the over-under of what Nick Castellanos did in 2025.
I think it's an upgrade, right? It's not a huge upgrade. It's the biggest upgrade is defensively.
Yes.
Right. But statistically, he's probably not as good an average guy as Castellanos. He's not going to get the bloop singles that Castellanos used to get, right? Because Castellanos would find a way to get his bat on the ball and bleed it into the outfield somewhere and get a single. So I don't think you're going to get that out of Adolis Garcia. But I do think you're going to see a little bit more power and production. Not a lot.
Yeah. Well, I realize that wasn't a true-false proposition, but I will follow it with the last one I have. Brandon Marsh / Otto Kemp.
Yes.
Justin Crawford and then Garcia together. Is that a bottom? True or false? That's a bottom 8 outfield in Major League Baseball.
I'd have to really look at everybody's outfield, to ask it that way. I don't think it's bottom 8. It's not top.
Yeah, I feel like Justin Crawford comes up and hits 270 and hits like 9 home runs, and he's like fine defensively, but you're like, okay, that was.
Yeah, I mean, look. Here's the thing. I don't know if we talked about this or not, and this on this show.
I think. Can I just say? I'm sorry. I just think their outfield stinks. I hate their outfield. I hate this outfield.
Yeah. I don't hate it. It's just
I hate it.
It's not inspiring. Let's put it that
also,
way.
like, if you gave me like Brandon Marsh's baseball card and you were like, he's going to just hit righties this year, we're not going to even pretend and he's only going to play left field. He's not a center fielder. We finally understood that. And you gave me the card, I'd say like, fine, good. Yes, this is a good player. I want him. But also I watched the playoffs last year and what a loser player he was for them.
Yeah. So here's what, again, this is the Dombrowski doesn't say anything unintentionally, right? So I asked him about platoons, and this was, I don't know if I said it on this show or not. If I did, I apologize for repeating myself. And he does one of his typical, and he starts to tell a history lesson. Yeah. And he's like, most people here won't remember these players, but back in 1983, Earl Weaver and the Baltimore Orioles put together a left field platoon of John Lowenstein and Gary Renicky. And everybody back then was like, oh, there's no way that these guys can compete. What are they doing? Playing those guys and think they're going to win a World Series. And then they went and won the World Series because those guys combined for 35 home runs. I went back and looked at it, Bob, and I thought and this is why I say it's very intentional what he does. Their combined OPS, they hit 34 home runs, not 35, but again, split hairs. Their combined OPS was 827. One of them against lefties, one of them against righties, 827. Last year, Brandon Marsh against righties and Otto Kemp against lefties combined, OPS was 827.
Mm-hmm.
It was exactly the same.
Yeah, and if you define their roles from the jump and you say this is what we expect of you, there could even be an uptick on that. And Brandon Marsh, by the way, didn't have a hit until Memorial Day. So you could say his numbers will even be better this year. I know. This is the trap that I was talking about at the beginning of the show. It's just seriously, this again, that's the problem. It's not that it's even a bad solution. It's just the same solution, and I want something different because I am bored. All right, that's it for my true false stuff. But
Yeah.
what else do you want to hit on before we get out of here? Anything
Well,
else?
I have one last thing.
Okay.
And my one last thing today, Bob, and we've been holding off on talking about it. I mean, obviously, Bo Bichette signs with the Mets, right? So, I think that's also part of what makes everybody upset. Like, if the Phillies would have lost out on Bo Bichette to the Texas Rangers,
yes,
people would have been upset, but not as upset, right? The fact is he's going to the Mets. Here's my question for you. Are the Mets actually better this year than they were last year? And they didn't even make the playoffs last year, right? Like, are they a better team today than they were in September? I don't know. I don't think so.
I mean, I think it's quite a little bit of a gamble. Like they place this premium on defense and preventing runs, and like you look at their corner infield right now, and they're going to have two guys that they don't play there. They don't play first and third. Like,
right.
So what does that look like? They're an okay team. Like they're going to be pesky. Like if you said, where do you think they land? I'd say probably like 84, 85 wins. Like I don't think they're a dumpster fire. So in that way, like could they get to exceed what they were last year? Like, yeah. But I don't think that this is like a special team. I don't find this team to be a threat. I don't think it's one of the 5 best teams in the National League. Maybe I just hate them and it's what it is, but I don't see it.
All right. And now you know me, right? You know I really like to needle the Mets. I'm so anti Mets. It's ridiculous. So the players I'm basing this totally on Fangraphs WAR. Okay, the players that they subtracted from their team had a combined WAR of 13.4. The players that they added to their team, and we're talking Bo Bashette, Devin Williams, Marcus Semien, Jorge Polanco, Luke Weaver, and then a couple of other like Ji-Hwan Bae and Cooper Criswell, is 10.2. So they have a net loss of 3.2 from last year, and that's assuming all these guys play like they played last year, right? Like you're assuming Jorge Polanco has the same good year he had for the Mariners last year after 2 years of stinking out there previously. Like flat out, he was terrible, right? Marcus Semien, he gets a 2-WAR player solely on defense. He can't hit anymore. You're hoping Devin Williams is a closer, which he couldn't do in New York. Is he replacing Edwin Diaz? Is he better than Edwin Diaz? I don't see it.
Right.
Bichette can hit, can't play defense worth a lick. That was.
But they're going to play Bichette at third, right? So what does that do? That make Vientos and Polanco the first base options at this point?
I think Polanco is their starting first baseman. Okay. I mean, I think it makes Beatty and Vientos kind of like extra guys.
I heard something that Beatty might be somebody that they look to flip now.
Could, but you can also play second.
Yeah.
Right. So
then their rotation goes what? So they're interesting in that. And like one thing I will give them credit for, like they have some young arms that you're like, okay, like you saw some things last year where you go, maybe this is a little different because it goes clean, right?
McLean is the real deal. There's no question he's the real deal, and that's something that finally the Mets have a young up and coming ace for sure.
Yeah. And then you have what's the name, Tong, like who like had a moment but then kind of fell apart. Like
according to Fangraphs today, this is their starting rotation for next year. McLean, David Peterson. How did his season end up going last year?
Yeah.
Clay Holmes.
Yeah.
Sean Manaea and Kodai Senga. That's how they stay. That's
how much of that is like, what is Peterson? Does he look like he did at the start of last year? And he's had his moments, or does he kind of continue to fizzle out, which is where I think he's heading. Manaea, like I have no idea. Like I think about 2024 second half Sean Manaea, and it gives me nightmares. But I don't know.
Right, like the pitching's just not there.
It doesn't really strike fear in you. Like those guys on any given night, you go like, this could be tough for us tonight, but you don't over the course of 32, 33 starts say like,
no. And their bullpen is
McLean. Like I think McLean like is real.
Yeah, I agree. And look, just to wrap up the starters, and you mentioned Tong. Look, they have some interesting minor leaguers in Tong and Sproat, right? Like those guys are legit prospects, but I don't know if they're ready.
Right.
I just don't know if they're ready. Like, I don't think they're ready. They showed it last year. And then you look at this bullpen, Devin Williams, Luke Weaver, AJ Minter, like old man Brooks Raley, although he
got paid. He's Milwaukee Devin Williams. Is he a bounce back guy here? Like,
I don't know, Bob. I don't see it.
He looked like it looked like the Mets broke him at the end of 24, and he's never really figured it out after that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, their bullpen is just, again, I think it's weaker, and I didn't like it last year, and I think it's weaker this year because you lost Diaz. You let Diaz walk.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, because I got to get out of here, and you do too. The Braves.
Yes. They're more dangerous to me. They're more dangerous in my mind.
Yeah.
They were killed by injuries last year.
Yeah.
Killed by injuries. And I think that if you're looking at who the top contender for the Phillies in the division, to me it's Atlanta, and more so than the Mets. And they would, it's their team nobody's talking about because it's been a quiet offseason for them too. But I think that they looked at it and said, we felt we had a team going into 2025 that could be very good, and then we were killed by injuries. Let's give them a shot when healthy.
Yeah,
I still think you're bringing Lopez is going to be back in the rotation after missing most of last year. I liked Hurston Waltrip a lot, right? I think that he's a guy. We saw Schwellenbach kind of become a guy for them. You still have Sale. Strider maybe took a step back from what he was a couple years ago, but he's still a live arm, a strong arm. I think the Braves. I always look at pitching, Bob. You know that, right? I'm a pitching guy. I always look at the pitching, and I look at that team's pitching staff, and I say far better than the Mets. They're the more dangerous team.
Yeah. I actually have a lot more that I wanted to get to, so maybe we could do another show here later next week.
I'll do one next week, sure.
I want to talk a lot about Bryce Harper, and I also think that there's a possibility. I'm not saying that I would count on this, but I do wonder if we're going to get some fallout here. We're going to get some Phillies spin, some rumors. I feel like we're not just going to go to Clearwater like this. I think there's going to be something to talk about between now and then as well.
I think you're right. And I want to apologize to just people might think that we're not live. We're like doing this as live. I did see some questions. We didn't have time to get to them. I apologize to the guys that put questions in. We will get to you guys next time. Save those questions. Bring them back on the next episode. We will get to them. We were just a little tight on time today.
Cool. All right. Well, you get us out of here, right? I bring us in. You take.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'll bring us out. So, thanks to everyone for tuning in to this episode of Fighting Words. Don't forget you can subscribe to Fighting Words on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. Best place right here on YouTube. Hit that like button, subscribe button. Like the show, share the show, let everybody know about it. If you want to. Find us on YouTube if you're listening in the podcast feed. It's youtube.com/@fightingwords. So for Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo saying thanks for tuning in on a Saturday morning, and we will catch you next week sometime as we prepare for. By the way, Bob, we are 3 weeks away from pitchers and catchers. 3 weeks. It's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
3 weeks from pitchers and catchers.
Let's go.
So we will talk to you next week, and then we'll get ready to dive into the 2026 Philadelphia Phillies season. Have a great day, everyone.